Today we are building a very unique set of Miata taillights. This customer asked for phases of the moon. As you can see, we've got 3 different phases here. We got quarter, basically half, and a full moon. I'm gonna show you the process of building them with this board over here. First, we have to start with what tools we're gonna use. Sounds weird, but we're going to start with a paint pen, soldering iron and solder, a pair of wire snips, a pair of wire strippers, some retro rubber, a pair of all black Miata taillights, the aftermarket set, a hot knife, some adhesive, specifically automotive adhesive. We're gonna use glue. And of course, we're going to need the alumistatic kit that we're going to use to build these taillights, which includes resistors and LEDs. One thing that we always add to every single one of our builds is a sequential turn signal, which we will get that effect by using a Corso Motion sequential turn signal module. Step 1 in building these taillights is to mark up the back with your paint pen. So we have already gone ahead and done the markings on here. I'm gonna go ahead and explain exactly what we've got going on. This moon right here is going to be red. So this is going to be our parking lights and our brake lights. In your alumistatic kit is a cheat sheet just like this. You need to read each of these and follow the recommended resistance for however you're going to wire them up. So the top one says do not have dimming function. The bottom one says do have dimming function. We're going to have parking lights and brake lights run off of the same set of LEDs. So they do have a dimming function. So using the cheat sheet, we were able to figure out what resistors that we are going to put in here. You can see right here, this is 2 packs of 3 LEDs, which means it's going to be a 470 resistor. Down here is going to be a 5-pack on the bottom and a 4-pack on top. So the 5-pack is going to be a 120 resistor and the top is going to be a 270 resistor. Same with right up here. And we did that all the way around. The amber is a little bit different. It doesn't have dimming, so we were able to use the top row of resistor recommendations, but this does have a sequential turn signal, and you can see here how it's going to run. It's going to go like this and then back. So whenever we were wiring this up, we were pretty conscious of how to actually split the LEDs up into their packs. So we've got a pack 3, pack 3, pack 3, pack 3, pack 3, pack 3, and this right here is a pack of 4 because we ran out of 3 packs and we didn't want to split it into 2. There's not really an option to wire up 2 LEDs together, so we did a pack of 4 instead. And this right here is just chaos, but it makes sense to me whenever I am wiring it up. Before putting in any of the LEDs, I like to go ahead and take our 2 modules that are going to be inside the light and glue them to the back of the board. I do this so that they don't bounce around and cause any sort of damage. So we're gonna start with our Corso Motion module. Gonna use the goop, just put a little dot right there on the bottom. And we are going to set this right in the middle of the board there. Next up, we've got the dimming module here, the parking light module. Same type of deal, just a little bit of glue right there in the middle and set this in the middle of the board. So while we're working on the amber LEDs over here, this is going to cure up, and by the time we're done, we can actually mess with these boards and they are not going to move around. So the way that the sequential turn signal is going to go is this right here, this pack is going to be our first channel on the Corso Motion module. So this is 1, this is 2, all the way around here, and then it wraps around and goes back. When I'm installing these LEDs, I am looking at the leads. There's 2 of them. 1 is long and 1 is short. That means power and ground. What I typically like to do is I like to install the shorter lead on the outside and just copy that all the way around so that you don't get confused. When you install these LEDs, you'll most likely have to push it down so that it actually goes all the way flush, just like that. The good thing about that is that it's gonna hold in place. But if you come across an LED that isn't holding in place, all you need to do is add just a dot of glue and it will stay there. Now that you've added all of these LEDs in the one pack, we can trim them down to be a little bit shorter and a little bit easier to manage. That's where your little wire snips are gonna come really in handy. So we've trimmed all those. We're gonna bend down the front pin and the back pin to get them completely out of the way. Now, the first LED is going to fold into the second, and leave at least one gap. Leave one gap here for the resistor. This is where the resistor is going to go. For the resistor, I just lay it in between, twist it around the leads, and now we can solder everything. So here and here is all going to get soldered. Now that those have been soldered, we can trim it short again so that everything is cleaned up and out of the way. And we are going to fold these leads down. There we go. That is one pack. Now we just need to do that a couple more times. All of the LEDs are installed, so now we can actually wire it up. So we are going to have the power wire run right here in the middle. All of the powers are going to be connected together and run right into this power output on the Corso Motion module. Then all of the grounds are going to run individually into the ground side switch of the Corso Motion module. Now that we have that all wired up, we can go ahead and test it. And as you can see, it is flowing exactly as we want it to. I do need to speed it up just a hair because the Miata turn signal is faster than this. And the way that you speed up the turn signal on these Corso Motion modules is by twisting this little knob right here. If you go this way, it slows it down. If you go this way, it speeds it up. So we're gonna set it right about there. Now it's time for us to actually build out the red moon right here. And to do that, we are of course going to do basically the exact same process. All of our LEDs are going to go in the same direction, something just like this, with the shorter lead facing out that way. Well, I just accidentally installed amber LEDs in the red spot, so now we have to redo the whole thing. Thankfully, I didn't do a lot of it. I just did 3 little packs, but still have to redo it. There we go. All of the red LEDs are completely wired in, and now it is time to move on to the reverse light. The reverse light is kind of tough because it is so packed tight with LEDs. So it looks kind of confusing, but once we break it down like this and actually, draw all over it, it does help. So this right here is just a pack 4. That's pack 4, pack 3. Right here, we got a pack of 5. So all that we do is just focus in on the individual packs that we're wiring up, and it makes it a little more simple and a little less chaotic to build. We got the reverse light completely built out. As you can see, this is the full moon. So the very next step is to actually open up the taillights and install the boards into the taillight assemblies, which is what we're gonna do right now. These taillight boards are designed to fit inside of the aftermarket Miata taillights. And to open these up, we are actually going to put them in the oven at 220 degrees for about 8 minutes. All right, now that we have that open and all cleaned off, we can now start to set the boards in place. One thing that you want to do whenever you're installing these is make sure that you feed the wires through the correct bulb hole right here. Looking on the back side, you can see where the bulb plate is actually supposed to sit. It gives you, the exact outline that you're looking for. We want the wires to be sitting in here inside the bulb plate. That is going to give us the most OEM look to the entire back housing instead of having two wires running out of here and going over here. So what I'm gonna do is take our bundle of wires here, go out the back, pull them through just like that. Well, we have a small issue here. As you can see, this side fits right inside there as it should, all the way around, but this side is not fitting in. I think they shipped me two of the exact same side. I bet if I set this guy over here, it will fit in there a little bit better. But if I flip it over, now that actually sits in there. So, I guess I'm going to take out all of the LEDs and the boards, reshape the board, reinstall them. Probably not going to film this part. All right, there we go. Now the board completely fits. I did do a time lapse and put that in there, but I'm gonna go ahead and explain exactly what I did. LEDs, we took those out. I went ahead and heated up the board, flattened it out, and then what we ended up doing was removing all of the markings that were on this side. We had to use a little bit of Goo Gone, a little bit of rubbing compound to get that off of there, and then there was a little bit of glue left. So what we did there was heat it up until we got the majority of it off. But then I still didn't like the way it looked. You could kind of see outlines of several different things. So I went ahead and did a buff and polish. So I started with a lower grit sandpaper, nothing too aggressive on this. It was probably 800 grit, worked my way up to 3000. And as you can see, it still looks great. Put it in the oven to heat up the plastic and formed it on a lens. It wasn't this one. Just in case I didn't want to damage it, we used a different Miata lens, and as you can see, it fits really well, and we were able to put the LEDs right back in place, and everything is still working as it should. So now we can actually move on to the wiring while this board is gluing in place up front. So what we're going to use is the OEM bulb plate, but the step one that we have to do is to get these bulb holders completely flush. We just got to trim them because it will pinch these wires that are coming out of the holes, and that is going to cause some issues down the line, especially if they are pinched in there and the car is lowered. It's just going to sit there and rattle until the wire breaks. So go ahead and trim these using a hot knife. There we go. So now we have the bulb plate wired in. I wanted to show you this right here. This is exactly how I was able to figure out what each wire does. This is a connector that comes off of the body harness of the Miata. So if you don't have one, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the wires and tell you what they each do. Black is ground. Red with green wire, this is your reverse wire. Red with green is reverse. So on the other side, red with black is park, green with white is turn, solid green is brake. So what I was doing is I just have this plugged in here. Then I can use my tester, wrap the wires around. I can just go through, touch each one, and the wires will light up in the correct order now. The very last thing that we need to do is put something right here because that's ugly. It's not gonna leak water because this is the seal and it's inside there, but I think it's pretty ugly to just look at, and I want it to look a little more factory. So I take the old bulb socket, I fill it with silicone and flatten it out to make it look more OEM. And there we go. Now that I moved the tape, you can see how factory this actually looks. It looks like it's meant to be just like that, even though the other side is completely modded. Okay, we are fully wired in. Now it is time to get the lens on. Both these housings are solidly in place and not going anywhere, so we can actually put the lens on. We're gonna start by putting some fresh retro rubber butyl all inside the troughs here so that this is going to be a watertight seal. Okay, we got some fresh butyl in there. Now it's time to blow some compressed air in the lens and on the light itself. Clean out all the dust, and then we will put the lens on the housing and pop it back in the oven. The lights were in the oven for about 8 minutes, so it's time to get these lenses pushed all the way back in place. I try to do this as much by hand as possible, and then we'll go back with the clips. I like to do it by hand so we don't break anything. And there we go. These lights are all done. We're gonna do several tests on them just to make sure that everything is testing good, make sure all the LEDs are good. We're gonna do a shake test, literally shake the lights, make sure none of the LEDs fall out, and then we'll box them up and ship them out. This is definitely a very unique design, but I actually really like it. I think it kind of flows with the design of the light itself, since it is this nice round bubbly look. And let's face it, the original Miata is a little bit bubbly, so it kind of works. I am super glad I was able to salvage this board. I think it still looks really good because that could have set us back several weeks waiting for a brand new board to come in.